Good day, my students of 400 level, Department of Geography, in Sabaka Udu University, Aniba. I'm welcoming you to my second lecture series for Geography 437, titled Biological Resources. So under this title, we are going to treat the wildlife resources as well as the forest resources. So I would like you to listen attentively as we start. The biological resources of the world constitute the plants and the animals. The biological resources of the world are the plants and the animals that live in different parts of the world. So the ecosystem in which they interact with is so diverse in such a way that all the available materials that are required by them to survive and to reproduce are contained within the same environment. So the environment of plants and animals, which we are going to look at this morning, are relevant to the discussion of this particular course because the intricate relationship they have with man are so vital for discussion. And geographers are all the time very much interested in wanting to know the existence of these life forms on the Earth's surface, particularly for the benefit of humans and even to the non-humans in the environment. These are the plants. The biological resources of the world include the macro and the microflora and faunae, respectively. When we talk about the macro flora, we are talking about the higher plants, the bigger plants. Plants that are large enough that can be recognized even by visual impression. You can see and identify them. Whereas the micro ones are those that cannot be easily seen by the naked eye. At times we call them the germs or the microbes. That is when we refer to the microorganisms that cause disease. The ones that are injurious to the body, such as bacteria, viruses, plasmodia, and the rest of them. Then other categories like Euglena viridis, Chlamydomonas, and the host of others that we cannot even really mention in this time constitute what we call the microorganisms. The wildlife resources are animals, plants, fungi, which are not normally domesticated. So the word wildlife has a distinct meaning, irrespective of their form of habitation. They are said to constitute the biological components of the earth or of the environment. At times, the other life forms, such as the insects, the vertebrates, and the invertebrates, alike, the microscopic plants and animals are excluded from these categories. It is as well interesting to know that the macroflora and the macroflora, they live on Earth, while the macroflora are the higher or larger plants that dominate the Earth. The other categories may be found in different parts of the Earth, though they are related, because the relationship we're talking about involve exchange of materials. In terms of usage, both are used for various things in the environment. In the pharmaceutical industries, a lot of these plant materials are used to produce drugs, and that can well be explained in botany, the study of plants. Then in terms of industrial usage, a lot of them are used for various products in our industries. So because of that, they are essential. Then we cannot talk much about the relevance of these life forms in terms of then when we talk about the socioeconomic value, the political value, the aesthetic value, and the cultural value and a host of other values. We cannot really talk about that because of our time. So let us go straight to discuss some of these life forms on the Earth's surface. Examples of the macropaunae in this discussion can include humans themselves, the Homo sapiens, the buffalo, Ictobos babalus, sheep, Ovis aeris, gorilla, and baboon, Papio anubis, and even hyena. These are some examples of the macro fauna we have in our environment. Examples of higher plants or the macroflorae include Milicia excelsa, that is iroko, calabash. We have water yam like Dioscorea alata, Savannah mahogany, Kaya senegalensis, and okra, Hibiscus esculentus, and cassava, Manihot esculentus. These are just a few of some of the macro florae in our environment. Knowledge about these wildlife species is essentially relevant to us as geographers because of their intricate relationship with man, as well as the physical and the biological ecosystem, which we have already mentioned. Although man's understanding of these biological resources is still at its infancy, there is therefore no doubt that the abundance of these life forms and their diversity offer numerous benefits to man that makes the earth a beautiful place to live in, a beautiful place to utilize for various socioeconomic activities or socioeconomic benefits. It is, of course, unfortunate, however, to note that the ever-increasing human population and the attendant rapid resource consumption has been an issue of concern to humans, since this increase is a threat to biodiversity. It is really a threat because we have observed that in the last 2 centuries, a lot of havoc has been done to the ecosystem as far as these biological resources are concerned. And since we consider them as the pillar of development, losses of these components of the environment cost a lot. They are cost intensive. It costs a lot of naira, costs a lot of money to the government of our land. This threat will cause in 3 phases of biodiversity, according to experts. It includes the number of species, the genetic richness within species, and the variety of biological communities in the globe. I mentioned them again. This threat will cause in 3 phases of biodiversity. They are the number of species. That is when we talk about the numerical value of the species in an ecosystem. The genetic richness within species, the ability to express their genetic characteristics is, of course, a necessary attribute of the biological resources in the environment, and as well as the third one, the varieties of biological communities in the globe. So the availability and the number per se of these biological life forms on the Earth's surface is so important to humans, especially the geographers, because of their numerical strength. Because as the more the number of these life forms on the Earth's surface, it is an indication of the health and the richness of the ecosystem. So we must realize as geographers that number counts a lot. Then the variety also counts a lot, and the ability of these life forms to regenerate. That is the essence of genetic science. Let's make reference to Santra. Santra 2010 once reported that during the 19th century, it was believed that more than 1.7 million species of animals, which are presently known, have suffered from extinction. Yes, That means a good number of these organisms have not yet even been discovered, or they have been lost through extinction. Studies have shown that. This author explained that the biological resources are rapidly being destroyed, they are being killed in a number of ways. These ways are mostly anthropogenic in form. They are human induced, mainly through activities such as hunting, poaching, pollution, urbanization, or settlement expansion, or through the process of infrastructural development and possibly deforestation. These life forms are always at threat. They are always been rendered, uh, homeless. Because of the interruptions by humans on their habitats. There's a tendency for them to be lost from that particular environment. So it's a cause of worry to geographers, particularly the biogeographers. So let's continue. Humans in this process disrupt the ecosystem and extirpate the species deliberately or indeliberately, or maybe accidentally. Studies have equally shown that humans are responsible for the loss of the biological resources of the earth in three possible ways. One, they are responsible through the depletion of the abundance of one plentiful species, the extinction of species, and the disruption of the ecosystem, as well as the habitat of these species. Three possible ways by which humans deplete these biological resources. One, through the depletion of the abundance of once plentiful species, the species that had existed before. They are being rapidly destroyed. Then the second phase is the extinction of the species from the environment. And the third is the disruption of their ecosystem. So that is a direct attempt at disrupting the ecosystem, maybe through clearing of land for agricultural purposes, or maybe the removal of vegetation for plantation agriculture, or other humanly possible developmental programs that can take place on the ecosystem, on the vegetation. So in this process, the biological resources of the earth are lost. Generally, humans have driven these biological resources of the earth into extinction in the following ways. Number one, hunting. Hunting is a socio-economic activity of the people, and it is common in the rural areas, especially in the forested ecosystem. Habitat alteration, the destruction of the habitat. The habitat, we know forests used to be the habitat of wildlife animals. The forest ecosystem, when it is cleared, distorts or interrupts the existence of these life forms in an ecosystem. So there's a tendency for them to migrate. That is a kind of forced migration, moving from one ecosystem to another. Then the third is the introduction of alien species. Species that are foreign to the environment are being introduced. In the course of doing that, it distorts the original existence of the organisms that are living in a particular ecosystem. There's a kind of succession that will take place when new organisms arrive at a particular habitat. They tend to to do away with the original inhabitants of that ecosystem, and that is an ecological process of succession that has taken place. Then the other one is hunting for commercial products. There are people that are engaged in commercial hunting, especially hunting that are meant to to kill or to produce animals for sale in both local and foreign markets, because of the interest traders of that particular organisms have in some parts of the animals they kill, like the skin of animals and other useful parts of the animal that can be used for cosmetics, or maybe for that have pharmaceutical values or medicinal values. Some animals, they can extract oil from such animals to be used for pharmaceutical products. So like fish, like some and so some simple multicellular organisms like termites and so on and so forth. They can be used for a lot of pharmaceutical services. Some are good for cultural or traditional practices. So the quest for their extraction is rapid in regions that the demand for their products. Then pollution of the ecosystem is another way humans have tend to disrupt the ecosystem. Maybe inadvertently, people or humans can introduce certain chemicals into the environment in order to scare the existence of pests or to kill animals, both on land and in water. In the course of doing that, they disrupt the ecosystem. They pollute the ecosystem. And you know what the effect, the ecological implication of pollution. When an environment is polluted, there is a tendency for the original owners of that particular ecosystem to leave that environment, or to be forced out of that environment, kind of forced migration to move to other regions that are more favorable. So that is can take place through the process of pollution. People tend to pollute the environment, maybe by water pollution or chemical pollution, and so on. Then another is pest and predator control with chemicals. So that is almost related with what we have just mentioned on pollution. So pollution is pollution, only that the process of polluting the environment that varies from region to region or from one ecosystem to the other, whichever way it takes, and whatever form of the resources that are or materials that are contained or that are pollutants in an environment, the implication is that it causes migration, a high rate of migration on the life forms in the environment. Then another form is through religious and cultural or traditional practices. The people engaged, it is most common in religious settlements. It's most common in rural environment where people require materials of the forest, require materials of the environment like animal parts or vegetation for their religious practices. Maybe like the leaf of palm tree, Elias guinensis vidura, they cut it for to erect shades. Some plant parts like the leaves or the back of the leaf are extracted maybe to manufacture maybe paraphernalia of masquerades and some local status, and so on and so forth. Then petty trading is another form by which people tamper with the ecosystem, the forest ecosystem or the biological ecosystem. So in addition to these anthropogenic interventions on the environment by humans, the biological environment, natural changes in the environment does eliminate the successful species of organisms. These tend to reduce their number to mere remnant populations. You see, natural forces like earthquake, which is not, though it's not common in our land, but there are earth tremors around, erosion, soil erosion, flood disaster, global disruptions of the ecosystem, so landslide, mudslide, flood events. You see, they are common mostly during the rainy season. So this also culminates in processes of disrupting the biological ecosystem, mostly, specifically the habitats of these wildlife resources. Then our second round of the biological resources is the forest resources. Forests, as we know it, are resources that are considered as the major component of the biological resources of the earth. The forest is a dense collection of trees that occupies a relatively large area. Forests play an important role in the ecosystem. Two factors are important in the distribution of forests across the globe. These are temperatures and rainfall regime. Well, before we continue with that, let me briefly tell us that the forest resources of the world is considered central and very vital to discussions on the biological resources of the